right. You know what? People can have all kinds of addictions, and I think I've developed one. Let's open up this case, take a peek inside. Okay, so I recently hit a antique store, actually just a little while ago, and this was what I found in there. Let me get this latch undone, and it's not in perfect, pristine condition, but it is all there. Now it is an electric one, which I really did not want, but the cool thing about this is the foot pedal that goes to it, and this is it. This is the foot pedal with the rheostat on it, and that's just cool. I mean, that's a cool piece of antique hardware. Now you see the wiring on this thing is absolutely trashed, so it will definitely need some work done to the wiring on it. Another really cool thing about this is being a portable machine. It has, and it does have a motor on it. This motor swings out of the way and lines up with the hand wheel on there. Now the rubbers that are on there, the tires, are pretty much trashed, but I believe I may have some replacements for that, and I'm hoping that the motor actually works, but I think this is going to be a good candidate for a restoration. It's a White Rotary machine, and it's made in America. Not only does it have the foot pedal and everything with it, but it also has the box of accessories that are in there. So I've got the little gathering tool right there. I don't know what else is in here. There's all kind of little goodies in here for this machine. A bunch of little pieces for doing bias tape and stuff. It's like there's an extra bobbin there. There's a bobbin on the top there. There's actually a spool of thread, which is, I'm sure, is no good. Okay, so I got the wire all unwrapped from it, and it was not attached to the box by the little pins. So we're going to lift this out of the box real quick. Set it off to the side there. And it is not a new machine, and it is not in the greatest of condition. The box is a little tore up. There's pieces of wood missing there. Now, this was plywood. Believe it or not, they had plywood back then. I don't know what year this is. We'll have to look that up pretty soon. But this was plywood on the top here. There is a little box here with accessories in it. And that was actually a solid piece of wood right there, it looks like. All right, let's dig into some of this wiring. We've got a T going on here. So I am assuming that this goes up to here. One wire splits off, goes there, back up, and they both go to the motor. That would control the amount of current or juice or whatever you want to call it that's going to the motor. So let's peel this old nasty tape off of here and see what we got going on inside of it. And just as I suspected, that is exactly what they did, and there's not much left there. There's one little strand of wire holding that, well, it just let loose. But that's what they did. They split one of the two wires from the power supply, the source, and put the rheostat, or the controller, right in the middle of it. We're going to wire this up a little bit different because I just don't like the way they did that, tapping it in the middle like that. What I would like to do is run power in here and then have it do its thing and then out to the motor. We are going to get some of this cloth wire though, the cloth wrapped wire, but more modern stuff. Looks like a 18 AWG. So we will replace it with modern cloth wrapped wire and get it put together that way. No soldering or anything on there, just twisted together and wrapped a whole bunch of really nasty tape around there. So we're going to set this to the side for now because I will have to go get some wire. So that'll be off to the side, and I would like to save that plug. That actually does not look like it's in bad shape. It's probably Bakelite. Yeah, just take those two screws out there and then we can reuse this plug. Get that out of the way, get this cleaned up, and then we'll look closer at the machine. Okay, so one of the very first things I'm going to do is I'm going to take the motor off of here. And there's just one screw holding it on this bracket on the back. And we'll take that off. Now I will definitely need to open this up and get all the way inside there where the wires hook up to the brushes and everything to get it replaced, because it does need to be replaced all the way back to its contacts. And I have already done a couple stitches with this thing just to try it out, turn it by hand. It was actually this little section right here. I did some wider stitches and then I tightened it up a little bit and just turn it with my hand. And this, most of the time, what I've noticed about this machine is most of the time when you're sewing, you're going to turn the hand wheel towards you. With this one, it's just the opposite. You're going to turn it away from you. You can tell by the way the feed dogs move on here. So that's what I had to do to get it to sew. But it does work. Everything's there. It will sew. I even did it with the old thread that's on there. But we're going to get it all unthreaded. And then we'll get to cleaning this thing up on the outside a little bit. I did a lot of oiling on it in the different holes. You can take the top piece off here. And there is an opening right on the inside there where you can get down in there and oil. And a couple little holes on the top there. There's holes all over the place where you can put some oil in there. These two holes in the bottom here are not for oil. This one might be. This one's not. This one is actually for the seam guide that goes on there, and I do have that. And you would put a screw in there, and you can adjust it to where you want to have your seam. It's got a wide side and a narrow side on it. Pretty handy little tool to have. The bobbin is underneath here. You lift that cover off, you push that in, and that unlatches it. And then the bobbin is right on the inside there. So the bobbin, you've got a little lever down here at the bottom. You can push that up and pull your bobbin out. Your bobbin case, everything in there. Kind of a wide bobbin, wider than the Singer ones anyways, but maybe not as thick. But everything is pretty clean inside this machine. I have not taken the head apart yet, but there's a couple screws on the back side there that allow you to do that. Alright, let's get to do a little more cleaning with the Gojo and see how everything comes out. Now I did that little test spot in the middle there, and none of that decal seemed to come off of there. And I will take more of this apart as I'm cleaning too. Definitely a lot of dirt coming off of there. Or paint, or both. Alright, so the only thing I've done to this machine so far is a de-oiling. That's it. A de-dirting, I guess. Just a little cleaning. I have not oiled it back up. I have not really polished it with anything other than a microfiber towel and some Gojo. Alright, there's some crud down on the bottom of this thing. We'll see if it'll polish off of there. Okay, so it cleaned up a little bit. There's some little rust spots in here that are not going to buff out. The only way to fix that is completely strip the nickel off of it and sand it down and then polish it again and then replate it, because the nickel will not fill in those pits. But if we sand it down smooth, hopefully the numbers stay in there and everything. Hopefully the rust is not deeper than that. Or you can leave it just like this. It looks a whole lot better than it used to. Okay, so here's where your bobbin assembly goes. There's the bobbin case. Pull that out, and then underneath here there's a lever you can push, and you'll see this top piece move away, and then that pops up, and that's a little cover for the bobbin carrier, I think. There's a little bit of lint in there, and you'll want to check all through here. There are some grooves and nooks and crannies and everything in there. There is a spot right here that was full of crust. I got that cleaned out. And then you've got this piece here. You can pull that out and make sure that's all cleaned up and no crust and gunk and everything. You can see my hands are getting pretty filthy from this. So there's years and years and years worth of crud in there that nobody has cleaned out. This thing probably has not been used in forever. Just as furniture, really. Now, I'm not going to do a total and complete restoration on this thing, but I want to get it functional. This right here is some of that old oil that's just sat there for years and gotten crusty. It almost turned to like a varnish. Try not to scratch anything up on there, but we'll get that all cleaned up. I don't think I'm going to take any more apart than that. Just run the brush around in there and get as much loose crap out of there as I can. I mean, it functioned with the crap in there, so less crap should function better. And then this piece, we're going to go ahead and put a little dab of oil on the back of it there. I don't know how much riding around it does, but definitely on this edge, we want to get a little bit of oil on there. And I just probably put a little drop on there like that, and then run it around with your finger, and that should be plenty. Now when you go to put this back in, there's two little hooks right there, and there are two holes right there and right there. You want to make sure those line up. And this is really a precision fit right in here, so it has to fit in there just perfect. And it should, there we go, snap right into place. Now that little tiny bit of oil I put on there should be enough. Let's give it just a little drop right there, and that should work its way down in there. This, I'm not going to do any polishing on it. I think it's going to be fine just like that. I'm going to put a little dab of oil on there and run it around with my finger. We don't want to get this too oily. I don't believe we do anyways. Then we'll put it back under that pin, push that lever back, and make sure it snaps back into place. And then our bobbin carrier should go right back in there. Of course, I don't need it in right now. But I got to put the feed dogs back on there. Now, believe it or not, the feed dogs were actually nickel plated. So they are pretty shiny. It's a little hard to, this machine work right here, it's got some crud down in there I can't get out. I did have to clean the grooves out with a wire brush. A lot of crap down in there and everything. And this is going to go back in here. Now, the bad part about this is they will need to be adjusted now since I took them out. And I did not polish this surface on there, and the whole reason I did not was because I can see where the washer was on there. So I did polish up the screw. I should be able to get that pretty close to being lined up, just going by that mark. And I think that's pretty close right there. I don't know if you can tell on that screw, I also kind of messed it up using the wrong size screwdriver. Something I preach about regularly, and I did not follow my own advice. Get that snugged up there. That should be good now. A little oil on some of these other parts in here. I don't think I'm going to take the take-up rod off of there. I think I'm going to leave it on, but I will rotate this around so that I can get right down in there and get a little dab of oil, because it is definitely going to need it in there. Now I've probably got quite a bit of excessive oil on here, and some of this will wipe down. Some of it will actually help clean up some of the old dried on oil that's on there. And then some of it, where these parts are steel and they've been nickel plated, if there's rust pits on there, there is really, like I said, nothing you can do other than strip it completely down, usually with electrolysis, and then replate it. And really, it's not a super valuable machine. There were hundreds of thousands of these things made, so I'm just going to give it a good cleaning. I think that's all it's going to need. Now, I do need to go inside of here and clean out all these goodies. Okay, I've got the cover back on there. I took both the needle bar and the presser foot bar out, and I polished those up. I hope I got the presser foot bar back where it's supposed to be. And then here's some of the screws, so I can get them into focus. These are the screws that hold the plate around the feed dog. You can see this one has been polished and this one has not. So I've been polishing them up. Every screw I've taken off of here, I've been polishing the heads up on them, and they're coming out pretty nice. Okay, so this plate, it does have a couple little rust pits on it and stuff, and there's nothing I can do about those, like I said, other than stripping it and replating it. There's a couple little holes here. I believe this is an oil hole on this one. It's the back one that is a thread hole there, a threaded hole for the seam, whatever you call it, the seam thingy. Anyways, let's put these screws back in it. All right, let's watch those feed dogs and see if they are where they need to be. I think they go below the surface and they come up. So yeah, I think they're pretty good right there. I've got a few other parts to clean up here. Again, these are all nickel plated parts and pieces. This is the piece that holds the presser foot on there. It goes on the back here. That bar looks a whole lot nicer now that it's been cleaned up. I'm going to get this cleaned up to match it, hopefully. And there it is. Nice and shiny now. Some of these parts almost look like they're brass or aluminum just because they're so tarnished and everything. And that's not the case. So I've got to get this put back on there, and it goes right on the bottom. Let's make sure I don't have any lint or anything down in there from the polishing process. And yep, there's some crud in there. Now, one of the things I'm probably going to have to do here is go ahead and put a presser foot on there. Get it snugged down because I need to get the screw in there, and I need to get it lined up right. I also need to polish up that little tiny screw right there. That I can't have a dirty screw like that. Yeah, that's a whole lot better. Fingers aren't any cleaner, but screw is. So we'll go ahead and get that started in there, which is kind of a pain because it's a little tiny screw and it's hard to hold on to. And I definitely want to use a screwdriver bit that's going to fit in there really well. Okay, now there's not a hole in the shaft here that goes in, so that's the reason I put the presser foot on there, so I could get this lined up with the feed dogs underneath there. Pull that all the way up, and I did polish the presser foot itself. So now I can get this snugged up on there. They're not huge screws, so you don't want to go over tight with them. And let's make sure, yep, it raises up just like it's supposed to. And you can still, I've got the tension about, I guess about halfway maybe. So I think I got everything pretty much correct on it. All right, we are going to tear into this motor and see what we can find. Cool thing is the nuts on here are the same size as the bits on my screwdriver. That is definitely dirty. There is a whole lot of fuzz inside this thing. Okay, so I got the motor apart. Took a little finagling, a little wiggling back and forth. I did have to unhook the two wires down here at the back. They are the ones that attach to the brushes down there. And then these other two are going to get replaced. They are the power that goes to the motor. But in the meantime, I'm going to have to get all this cleaned up and then go get me some wire to replace the old stuff. This, I may be able to take this and throw it in the ultrasonic cleaner. Get my little felt piece out of there. It's a little felt piece that helps hold oil into the bearing surfaces. Yeah, I think I might be able to just get all this in the ultrasonic and get it cleaned up. Okay, so I've got a lot of work done to the White Rotary sewing machine here. I've got all these parts and pieces polished up, at least the best I could get them without having to strip them down and replate them. I don't know how much I'm going to go into it more than this. The case is going to need some work done to it, but for right now, I took everything apart on this machine, almost everything apart. There's a couple little pieces I could not get off and didn't want to risk damaging anything. I do have my tension knob up here polished up, but the cover, the cap for the needle bar, I did not take off. I did not take up the take off the take up lever. A couple of the pieces on there I didn't take off to clean up or anything. But other than that, I did quite a bit. The motor was probably the biggest part that I had to do any work to, and I completely stripped that down, polished up the case and everything, took the armature and everything out of the inside of it, cleaned up the brushes, the whole 9 yards, cleaned up the bearings. They are Babbitt bearings, so they're a real soft metal. Took the wicks out of the oilers and cleaned them up a little bit. And put new wiring in the motor. I did not film any of that. Now this wiring I bought is it's lamp cord. It's 18 gauge cloth wrapped wire, and it is really terrible wire to work with, at least with that cloth wrap on the outside of it. I did reuse the old plug, which is still in good shape other than the little insulator piece there. It doesn't fit real well now. But it's functional. I'll probably replace it, but I put it back on just to try everything out. Rewired the foot pedal. Now the carbon piece that's inside there, the resistor, does not work on all settings, but it does work on the highest setting and just a little bit up from there. I've had to tweak the motor around a little bit, move this spring around a few times to get it to where it's got the best tension on there. And we'll go ahead and get it plugged in. I'll show you. It does work now. Okay, so right now when the pedal is all the way up, there's no power to it, but we push the pedal down. You got to get it to go almost all the way down before it will start. And there it is all the way down. I can back off a little bit. And that's about as slow as I can go with it right there. Not a lot of power on this motor, and it doesn't take much to bog it down. Even if it's at its fullest speed, a little bit on the hand wheel there. But we'll go ahead and get this thing threaded up. Now I'm going to use some of the old thread and the old thread that's on the bobbin and everything, and we'll give it a try and see how it does for sewing. All right, after unsuccessful attempts to use the old thread in there, we're going to go ahead and put new thread on the bobbin. Now lace it through those two pieces right there. This is the bobbin winder. We're going to just take the thread and poke it through one of those holes right there on the outside. See if we can get that up through there. Let's do this the other way. Let's put it from the inside going outward, because then it'll wind the thread on the inside of the bobbin instead of on the outside of it, which is where we don't want it. So we'll get that pulled through there. We'll get the bobbin slid on there. Now to do this, you got this little lever on the outside of the hand wheel here. You'll want to disengage that so that the center piece will disengage from the hand wheel on there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to adjust this little screw down at the bottom, and this will put the bobbin wheel up against the hand wheel. So now it should go ahead and wind it on there like that. So we're going to go ahead and use the power to do this. We'll get a few wraps on it before we cut this tail off of here. Now one of the things I don't like about this is it does not have a guide on there, but it should. The bobbins are pretty narrow. It should. You might do something a little bit on there to kind of even it out some. And we're not going to fill the whole thing up. So we will do it right about there, and I think that'll be plenty. So we'll go ahead and disengage this, which is that little screw down there. Pull our bobbin off of there. Go ahead and cut that. Put it back in our bobbin case. Okay, so you've got your bobbin case. If you've got it looking forward toward you, the back of it toward you, you want to take your thread like a backwards 9, I guess, and have it coming off the left side there. We'll put it down inside the bobbin case. You're going to pull your thread right underneath that hook there. Then you're going to pull it over to this side. When you flip it over, you're going to pull it down, and then you're going to pull it up, and it should pop right out through that little point right there. Then we'll go ahead and put that bobbin case back in there. There we go. We got it popped in there. Now we'll go ahead and get the machine threaded up. Okay, now when you thread it, pull your thread off. You're going to go around this pin right here and underneath that little disc. Then you're going to go down through that part right there. When you pull it down here, you're going to go in your tension, under your tensioner here. You're going to go up, and there's that little spring right there. You're going to want to make sure it is caught on there. So it's going to go under that hook, around there, and catch in that spring. Then you're going to go up through your take-up lever. And your take-up lever is going to have a little spring right there. So you're going to go up under it like that, and then you're going to pull it down, and it'll go over that pin right there. You're going to come down to your needle bar. There's on your clamp right here, there's another little hook right there. You want to get that thread through there. And then I already got my threader on there, so I'll put my thread through there, get it through the needle. Now we should be able to pull a little bit of this out. And you can still see our bobbin thread down there. We'll be able to turn that wheel, turn it the correct way. And we should be able to pull our bobbin thread right up through there. And there we go. We'll get them both underneath the presser foot there. I like to pull mine to the back like that. And then we can go ahead and get the cover put back on there. And now we can attempt to sew with it. All right, we got the lever re-engaged over there. Find my foot pedal, hold on to my tails there. And let's go ahead and take this down about 3.5, see what the stitches look like on that. Oops. One thing I've noticed about this machine, it is backwards from a Singer. The hand wheel, normally you would turn at the top toward you. This one you turn away from you. So, I did adjust the stitches. I got 7s right there, then 3.5s. Let's do the shortest. This is the absolute shortest. This is the lever all the way down. Hopefully it even moves. Yeah, that is a very, very, very fine stitch there. And let's gradually increase it as we go. And we'll pull this out and take a look at it. Okay, so there's where I started at 7, then I went down to about 3.5 right there, and went all the way down the end. When I turned it around, I set it on the absolute shortest stitch length there, and that is tiny. That's just a bunch of little dots pretty much, but they're pretty consistent. And then as I went around the corner there, I started slowly increasing the length of the stitches, and I ended up there on about 4. So it's looking like it's stitching pretty good. Here's the back side of it. I think the bottom tension is a little bit tight, but it's pretty good looking stitches. Even the tiniest ones there really look pretty good. Yeah, the back side not so much on the little ones. Looks like the upper tension might need to be tightened up a little bit to match up with it. That's the cool thing about these old machines. Most of the time, if they're all there and they function, when you turn the hand wheel, if everything moves up and down and all the parts and pieces are all there, it's a pretty good chance that it is going to be a working machine. Everything I've done to this so far is just a cleaning, kind of an extensive cleaning. I did take a lot of the parts and pieces off and polish them. Especially even the bobbin case. I took the little tension spring off of there and polished it up because it seems to drag a little bit. That feels pretty tight on that bottom thread there, and I could probably do a little bit more loosening on that to get it where it needs to be, because that just seems excessively tight if you ask me. Yeah, that's probably a whole lot better right there. And there's not a lot of adjustment on any bobbin thread on any machine, really. It's getting them to match up is the tricky part. That feels pretty good right there. They both feel to be pretty even anyways. So there's a bunch of little tweaking and stuff you'll probably want to do if you ever take one of these apart and do some cleaning on it, especially if you don't know anything about the machine. They're not super complicated. There are some timing issues with some of them that in different places that you don't want to mess with. But other than that, if you get one of these old machines and you want, just take it apart, take one piece off at a time if you want, clean it up, put it back on there, and hopefully everything will work out pretty good. They're cool old machines. They've been around for, I'm not sure what year this one is. I'm thinking it's about 1920 is what I think this one is. Now, White did not keep as good a serial numbers as what S.C.A.R did. S.C.A.R really kept good, accurate records of everything. You can tell the month, and I don't think quite the day. Maybe you might be able to tell the day too that they were actually produced, and they're just really cool machines. No back stitching on them, so there's a couple things you can do. I've seen people take and just lift the presser foot up and move it back a stitch or two, sometimes just one, and that gives you one back stitch, and then you can just go with it. Pretty cool old machine. I just have to get used to that hand wheel being different on this than it is on the S.C.A.Rs. Anyways, thanks for watching my semi-restoration of an old White Rotary sewing machine made in the USA. Pretty cool old machines. Still need to adjust that tension. That's better.